Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Happy Friday. It's the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah, it's Friday, and yeah, I'm broke. I'll play the song later. Let's just take care of some business first before we get all into weekend mode here, because terrible terror attacks happened on New Year's Day, and here we are 48 hours later. Do you know the motive of the guy in Vegas? I certainly don't. So it's kind of hard to move on and say, well, we can learn some lessons here and just be more vigilant in the future. I don't even know what the story is. Clint Bruce is my first guest. He's a former Navy SEAL. Now, Clint, with your military experience, do you feel like there's any connection between these two guys because they had a similar military experience?
I don't think they had as much of a similar military experience as a lot of people think. They were both in the Army. They were both stationed at a base where thousands of people were stationed at the same time. I don't know. There's as much a linkage between the two that people want, kind of to satisfy that need to understand uncertainty. But what we can understand and what we should never flinch away from is, Bin Laden and his son and the types like him. They're going to do what they said they're going to do. They're going to find a way to bring the fight here to our streets. And the needle in the heart of those efforts are vigilant Americans and the first responders who run towards the sound of guns and rescue people and people looking out for each other. And then resilience. I mean, resilience is a needle in the heart of terrorism, right? And when you try to shut a society down and you don't, it defeats the effort. And I think we need to be mindful of that as details continue to emerge about both of those attacks.
Yeah, because that means they just blew themselves up for nothing.
It's defeating. It's defeating when they commit time, treasure, resources, and personnel to these acts, and it doesn't do anything. I mean, Israel masters that better than anyone else. They just kind of keep going.
Well, there's some other weird connections that when you start adding it up, you can't blame people for conjuring conspiracy theories because they both used the same app to rent a truck that was an electric truck. Electric trucks are like less than 2% of the cars on the road. So a lot of weird coincidences there, and you just throw in the military thing. Oh, really? They went to the same base? Oh, really? They were in Afghanistan at about the same time? I don't know if they knew each other or were in the same crew or stood next to each other in the at lunch. But
that'd be pretty unlikely when you know their roles and you know their jobs. But listen, I get people's desire to understand, right? And so I'm not critiquing that desire to kind of understand linkages and all these other things. I'm just saying, looking out for each other, being grateful for the incredible first responders that we have, and trusting that there are good people on the national security front that are doing everything they can. And then owning your own kingdom and being able to take care of everybody around you. Like, that's what terrorists hate.
Well, I think one of the big pushbacks to that sort of Zoolander conspiracy where these guys got, I don't know, brainwashed and activated, there's some sort of patsies of some military project.
Like the Manchurian Candidate kind of theory.
Yeah. I don't know. Have you seen Zoolander? Killed the Malaysian prime minister.
It's fantastic. Yeah, I mean,
right.
Without being trivial or anything like that, it's yes.
Right. So that's kind of the general thought. Of course, it's not that flippant and funny, but I noticed both of their attacks were very non-military in execution. There's no military plan where you drive around the cop car on the sidewalk to wipe people out, and there's no military purpose for a guy to blow himself or shoot himself and then blow up a truck. These are completely irrational non-military tactics.
Yeah, that's not doctrine. That's not a tactical. Listen, martyrdom is not a tactic of the United States military. That's not what we do. Our mission is to inflict great pain on the enemy and live to fight another day and come back home to our families. So there's not many tactics we have in the United States military that are martyr.
Well, as a veteran, do you find that kind of abrasive, or do you take offense to people trying to make that military connection? Boy, we got to do something about these military veterans. We told you the Department of Homeland Security was warning you about the veterans returning home and being a loose cannon.
I take extraordinary offense to that. I mean, I think to try to cast veterans in this broad brush. I mean, at the end of the day, the military is a microcosm of the society it protects, right? So the military has all the things that the civilian sector has, and so those mental health challenges. Now, what happens with the military population is we tend to go through that reinvention and that recalibration later in life at a more acute level with less margin of time to kind of get it right. But the United States military veteran is not a broken demographic in American society. If anything, they're the most proven demographic we have in American society. So there's always exceptions for sure, but it's wrong to kind of paint the veteran population with that brush.
Right. And I don't think there's any part of like Navy SEAL training where they taught you to blow up your truck.
No. I mean, you got to turn that stuff back in. Like, you don't pay
Right.
for it, and so no. I mean, again, martyrdom is not a doctrine of the United States military. Sacrifice is. There's a difference between sacrifice and martyrdom, right?
Sure.
We have Medal of Honor recipients. We have a museum, just between Fort Worth and Dallas that extols the virtues of sacrifice. But martyrdom for max damage and carnage, that's not anything we do as a military.
All right, Clint Bruce, we're out of time. What can I promote for you today?
Hey, just keep doing this, man. Keep asking people hard questions, making them have great answers, and just tell everybody to believe in each other and trust each other. And resilience stabs a needle in the heart of terrorism. So, without any disrespect or disservice to the tragedy that happened, get back to life.
Love it.
And love each other and serve each other well.
This is Clinton Bruce, former Navy SEAL, on the James Show. Appreciate your time, sir. So we have a few updates to share with you on the attack in New Orleans and Las Vegas, but I'm asking you now, is there a connection here? Are you seeing a connection? Do I have something wrong? Because you don't have to agree with me. You can call in and be like, listen, Parker, this is what you're missing. Because I have a hard time pushing back because you and I still don't know the motive of the Vegas guy. Or do you know the motive of the Vegas guy? Please tell me. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I am your host, James Parker. All right, sleuths, you tell me, what is the motive of the guy in Vegas? What is the motive of the guy who took a Cybertruck, rented a Cybertruck, took it in front of Trump Tower in Vegas, rigged up some explosives and fireworks, and then shot himself in the head before it went off? What's the point of that? We know the motive of the guy in New Orleans. We've seen it before. And in so many of these mass casualty events, or even attempted mass casualty events, you get a sense of closure when you know what this was about, what this was over, because then you can sort of prepare and digest accordingly. The Joel Osteen shooter. It was a trans woman, had Free Palestine that was scratched onto her guns. Apparently she doesn't like Christians, not a big fan. Okay, I can understand that. That's happened before. The guy in New Orleans gets radicalized into Islam, now supports ISIS, puts the flag on the back of his truck. We've seen that before. Oh, really? A Muslim terrorist wants to kill a whole bunch of people in order to bring attention to his cause? Okay, we've seen that before. What's the Vegas guy? What's the explanation there? And I'm not challenging you and you don't know, do you? Because I don't know either. You can say it right back at me. Well, I don't know, Parker. What is it? I don't know. That's the weird part. We did our internet sleuthing things yesterday, where when we found out who it was and what his name is, then we went and looked up, and his girlfriend's obviously a big lefty, but he himself looks like he's more of a Team Red type guy. But why would a Team Red guy do a terror attack at a Trump target? That doesn't make any sense. No, I don't know. Active military? Really? Older guy too? So that's kind of a surprise. And I don't have the answers. I'm asking you as much as I'm telling. And if you have some answers, 800-288-9227. I don't think you do. You can speculate. Well, I welcome that, but we don't know yet, do we? So bizarre. So why is this important? Well, if we have this guy, maybe he got radicalized into Islam and we just hadn't found out yet, or they're just conveniently not sharing that part of his manifesto. But the other guy had all kinds of explanations. The New Orleans guy, he supposedly uploaded a handful of videos right before he did the attack. And I mean 2 hours before he did the attack, he uploaded a series of videos. So we have chapter and verse on why this guy did it. It would almost be too convenient if the other guy was a convert too. Because that feeds into this existing narrative that we don't want to be true, but we have to look out for it, is the fact that how many people with ill intent, how many terrorists and terrorist operatives and people who aid these guys, even though both of these guys are American citizens, how much of that capability came through the open border over the last 4 years? And you may think, well, Parker, look, these guys were local. I know, but a lot of times they're not. And a lot of times the people that radicalize the local guys are not. And a lot of times they'll go ahead and pick the one guy out of their radicalist group who is an American citizen, precisely because if he gets pulled over, he's going to be less likely to be stopped and questioned seriously by cops. These are very useful to people in the cause. But Tom Homan talked about it on Fox yesterday. He's the incoming border czar. And this could be the first of a long series of attacks.
How many of that 2.2 million who escaped apprehension, who escaped vetting, who escaped fingerprinting, came from a country sponsoring terror? Even Christopher Wray, the director of FBI, said numerous times under testimony in front of Congress that this is the biggest national security vulnerability he's seen. I agree with him. So we're not out of the woods. This country's in grave danger. We need to secure that border. And despite what's happened the last 2 days in Las Vegas and in New Orleans, this administration is not stopping. They're still releasing thousands of people every week through the CBP One app, the CHMV program, and Border Patrol continues to release people in this country without proper vetting.
Well, these guys were citizens, so I don't know if that's the right approach either. These guys, one of them active duty military. So, how much more can you vet the guy? He works for you. He works for the government. He works for America. He's employed by the taxpayers. Those guys should be pretty well vetted. But we've seen that before too. We saw Nidal Hassan shoot up Fort Hood. Now what's it now, Lavacas or something? So I wish I had some better answers because I'd be able to put a little bit of mental closure on this and move forward. I would also like to know if this is the first two Islamic terror attacks. They just started on January 1st, and this is going to be a banner year for Islamic terrorism. I don't know. I really don't. What do you think? 800-288-9227. And I like being a smarty pants little know-it-all. I like being the guy who looks everything up before the show, and I have all the answers for you. And I feel like I'm falling short here. Bruce and Irving, you're on the James Show. Help me. What is the guy in Vegas? What is his motive?
Yes, sir. I believe the motive is probably the same with what he did in New Orleans. We can strike whenever we want, whether Trump, who's proclaiming America's going to be safer and better, or whether it's Biden, who's a loser on the way out. They're all the same. America, you can't stop us. We're going to strike you whenever and wherever we want. It's a statement that terror still reigns supreme and nothing's going to stop them.
So you think the Vegas guy was inspired by Islam as well?
Yes.
Do we have any evidence that he converted?
I'm not sure. I would not be privy to something like that, but the fact that he shot himself even before the car blew up, it just means that their statement is terror reigns. You can't stop us, America. You're no big deal. You can't stop us. We're going to keep doing this because we want you to start quaking in your boots.
Well, if you turn out to be correct in that prediction, that will be amazing. Because I mean, with no evidence, you just on a hunch are saying that, and I can't push back. I can't tell you you're wrong because we don't know.
I think it is a hunch, definitely, sir.
Fantastic. That's a bold prediction. I appreciate you calling in. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. And again, see, I told you, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. You're a crazy conspiracy theorist, or you need to get that tinfoil hat off your head because we don't know. I don't know. He could have been an alien. I don't know. It could have been one of the guys from Men in Black that was just wearing the suit over. We don't know. So 800-288-9227. There's a lot of people who will speak up in like a Facebook message or an email to james@wbap.com. And I think it's a little harder to call in on something like this because, I mean, do you feel like, oh, I don't want to sound silly? I don't want people to make fun of me like I'm an Alex Jones type person. It's safe. Hayden, Arlington, you're on WBAP. What do you think his motive is?
Hey, James, I'm not really certain. So I don't know if it's going to be like a marked year for Islamic terrorism, but I do see one thing. It's been kind of a trickle of effects, and it's going to be one guy and then kind of a domino effect into another and maybe another, maybe another. I don't really know which way it's going to go, but I know seeing these first two attacks, one right after another, it kind of sparked that same flare in me of, oh no, like what's coming? You know what I mean?
Well, I guess we probably all felt like that after 9/11. Were you old enough to remember 9/11?
Yes, yeah.
Because the
absolutely.
scary part of it was really 4 attacks, and there was one in the one building, and then the other building, and then the Pentagon, and then the Pennsylvania. And it took a few days before we were like, all right, the attacks have stopped now. Now what do we do? Yeah, I kind of feel like that again, Hayden. Very good point. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
800-288-9227. Your guess is as good as mine. What is the motive of the Vegas truck bomber? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. What is the motive of the terrorist attack in Las Vegas? Now that we know more about the guy, we don't have any idea what his motive is. Well, I already had a speculation from a caller in the previous segment saying it's quite likely he also converted to Islam, and this was another just, boom to get attention for the cause and try and scare people. And same motive as the guy in New Orleans. Well, wouldn't that be nice and reductive? I hope it's that simple. I fear it's not, because that makes it a little harder to know what's coming up next. What do you think? 800-288-9227. This is David in Quinlan. You're on WBAP. What do you think the motive is?
Yeah, howdy. I think his motive was simply suicide and calling attention for his wife. I think the timing was coincidental. Look, he was an active duty special forces guy. That he could make a much more powerful explosion from household chemicals in a fraction of the time that it, took to go out and buy all the fireworks that he packed into the Tesla. I just think his was total depression and has nothing to do with Islam. And again, it was just coincidental with that New Orleans attack. That's all.
Okay, David, why in front of the Trump building then?
Well, you mentioned, and I did not know this, that his wife was quite liberal. And perhaps he wanted to, rub it in her face in some way or make a statement. I can't answer that one at all.
Right.
But I imagine that she caught him cheating, confronted him, probably told him to leave the house, said, I'm leaving you and I'm taking the kids. And where does he go? He could have gone back on base to the barracks, but that kind of admits defeat for a man that's that proud. I'm sure he was proud. He was active duty special forces.
Well, yeah, and this is an important distinction, because that also means that this is not a terror attack. He didn't do this, violence or intimidation in support of an agenda, ideology, political cause. There's no political cause. There's no ideology. He just wanted to snub his wife. So that would change the entire nature of what this was.
And that's the way I'm looking at it.
Fair enough.
I do not believe that it's an Islamic, inspired attack.
Gotcha.
I don't think he was converted. And even if he had been, his service, active duty, I think would have taken precedence. His camaraderie with the other people in his unit.
Well, I mean, you say that, but Nadal Hassan didn't feel that camaraderie after he went down the ISIS rabbit hole. But I appreciate you sharing your theories here. I'm going to ask some more people here. Dave and Quinlan, thanks for calling. Paul and Prosper, you're next up on WBAP. What do you think the motive is for the Vegas guy?
Well, actually, I think the question itself is based on a false premise that the two incidents are the same. One was clearly designed to kill people and create havoc. The other one didn't kill anyone except the perpetrator, who killed himself.
Yes.
So we don't have enough information to really know whether they're related or not. And I'm surprised and concerned that people are assigning all these motives to the guy without knowing anything about him, especially people who aren't veterans, who don't understand the veteran world. That's very concerning to me.
Well, don't be concerned. We do baseless speculation on the James Show all the time.
Yes, I know. So I just think that we need to be patient. We can't have everything all at once. We've got to do the work and see if we do get a motive. We may never get a motive from this guy. That's a possibility, too, that we have to be prepared for.
Well, the largest mass shooting in American history, also in Vegas, and we didn't ever get the motive for that dude.
Exactly.
Well, that doesn't make me feel much better. Thank you, Paul and Prosper. You're more mature than me, but baseless speculation is what we're all about. What are we supposed to do in the meantime? I don't know. Yeah, we just talk about it. We'll figure it out, maybe. Steve and Irving, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
Hey, James, I'll tell you what, dude, I got a really good friend of mine that was in the first go-around in Iraq. He's a Green Beret, okay? And he was behind enemy lines before we even started bombing. and his mission was to be covert. And he had a pickup that he had to rig with explosives in case his mission went bad. And they're trained to do these things, to blow things up with the optimal damage. All right, this Green Beret that did this in Vegas, I believe with all my heart, he picked that truck, he picked those type of explosives, knowing that they would do minimal amount of damage, and hopefully not kill anybody, which is what happened. And what's really strange about this too is people overlook that fact, and the fact that those Tesla trucks can drive themselves. You can punch the coordinates in, and so it wouldn't be unheard of that Tesla, he was already dead in the Tesla when it pulled up there to the front of Trump's towers. What the motive is, I don't know, but I think these are key factors in it.
Agreed. Yeah, my military experience is zero. Like, I met Sergeant Slaughter one time in New Orleans, and that's about all I got. He put me in the headlock thing that he does on wrestling. I forgot what the snake hold or something like that. Cobra Commander. I don't remember what it was. It was funny. But that's about all the military. The what? The sleeper hold? No, it doesn't have a fancy name. Like you used it against Serpentor in the cartoon or something. Anyway, 800-288-9227. Your guess is as good as mine on what the motive is for the Vegas guy, but I sure do love the baseless speculation. Some people laugh at that. I think it's fun. Coming up next, you're going to hear Todd Tremonti, the host of Texas Real Estate here on WBAP, talking about how home sales and DFW have jumped. What is going on with the local housing market? You'll find out in 4 minutes on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Real estate news is hard to come by. Good real estate news because it's so local. You know, when they talk about when national real estate trends, means nothing if, you know, if the rest of the country is down, but DFW is ripping and roaring, well, then you're not going to get the right reporting from national outlets. So we necessarily have to turn and look at some local guys. And one of the men that you hear on WBAP hosting Texas Real Estate, Todd Tremonti, is on. He's going to help us figure out what's going on with the Dallas home sales. They've jumped to their largest level in years. Is that headline correct?
It is correct. And you guys get it right once again, man. Real estate is hyper local. So, you know, it's not like all the other headlines are bogus. They're just not always as relevant. But we have seen a nice little jump, I would say, post-election. It's certainly not all about that, but nice little jump in optimism, yes, in activity, but I think the more exciting thing is the action out in the market that's probably going to lead to a pretty nice early 2025.
So where's the hot spots in DFW?
Well, that's the tricky part. Even in Dallas, when we look at these numbers, we're looking at averages. So we're actually seeing a pretty good amount of movement in what most folks would call luxury. So that's where you're like kind of more than 2 times your average in an area. And for our area, that's kind of that 700, 750 and up, even 650 and up for as far as just kind of the feel of it. So there's a little more activity there than in other areas. Lots of activity in the entry level price points. A lot of your typically hot spots, Plano, Allen, over on the Fort Worth side, you know, Weatherford, Benbrook are doing pretty well. The further out you go, things start to be less reliable as far as the data. But, you know, most of your typical hotspots, Frisco's blowing up just like it has been for a long, long time. But nothing real surprising on those spots.
So what about the ongoing gentrification that you see? Like I think of like a Bishop Arts District. I've noticed that there's sort of a maturing factor when there's sort of the entry level people who get in there, and as the prices get up and the neighborhood changes, that kind of changes the demographics, and you know, like older people and wealthier people start buying in. Where do the revitalized neighborhoods? What are the big ones that you see around here?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Again, there's different ripples, kind of different rounds of gentrification, different rounds of turnover. And we saw that with Lower Greenville and Lakewood, again, over on the Fort Worth side and the River District and things like that. But believe it or not, areas like Richardson that have just kind of been slow and steady forever are seeing some tear down, new construction. That Lower Greenville, M Streets area is still doing well. Bishop Arts, like you said, is kind of in its second or third round. Prices are much higher. Property's harder to come by, but that's popping really, really well. North Dallas, far North Dallas have been through many, many, many rounds of this, and it's been slow for a while, and we're seeing that tick back up again. East Plano has had a nice little run. It paused a bit as rates went up, and we're seeing it move again too. I could keep going, but a lot of those areas that were kind of bouncing back right as COVID hit and paused are coming back again, at least the early signs right now.
Are interest rates much of a problem? You know, Bob Lavelle and I both agree that you marry the house and you date the rate. So that shouldn't stop people, but
saying.
Yeah, but it always does. It always seems to you know, kind of chill the market when rates gets too high.
Yeah, so I don't always trust the data because the data can say a lot of different things. But right now it's pretty accurate that for the most part, people have gotten to where they're not waiting for rates to go back down into 4s and 3s, certainly anything with a 2 in front. And so we're seeing more activity. We're seeing less rate sensitivity. Of course, we're all sensitive to rates if we're borrowing, but less people waiting, less people saying, I'll never pay that, and people kind of coming to grips with the fact that these rates are still pretty decent, and they're probably not going to change a ton anytime soon. So we're seeing less sensitivity to rates for sure, and it's kind of the same with the price point. We're seeing price points that are higher than they've been. We probably went up 2 to 3% in DFW last year in 2024, and we're seeing people that are going, look, I just don't think they're going back down. So waiting has been expensive. I think waiting is going to continue to be expensive. So let's go ahead and make a move. There's not a massive wave of people doing that, but there's good momentum towards people no longer waiting for those things.
What are you talking about on your show this weekend?
I tell you what, we're going to talk a whole lot about those numbers. What did last year look like? And the question everybody wants answered is, what is this year going to look like? So what's 2025 likely to look like if I'm a buyer, if I'm a seller, if I'm an investor? And then one group that gets overlooked a lot. If I love my home and I just want to enjoy it more, where are my opportunities in 2025? We'll talk about all of that there, as well as the podcast. We'll be trying to help as much as we can our friends here in DFW.
What's the most common question you get on your show?
Well, it depends on seasonally, but probably the single most popular is, how do I get the most money I could possibly get for my house? Obviously, that's for people ready to sell. We talk about that all over YouTube, radio, podcasts. We take those calls every day. And then where are the good deals, right? So the typical seller question, the typical buyer question.
Good stuff. Todd Tremonti, thanks for being on the James Show again. You can find him on Texas Real Estate here on WBAP. Hey, the crowd's very happy with it, too. Okay, stick around. Coming up next, we're going to talk with Greg McBride from Bankrate, and we're going to talk about some more economic news. Some of the interest rates that I just talked about with Todd Tremonti, they're going to affect the other parts of the things that hit your wallet, and you'll find out how to prepare for it next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. How you doing? How's the economy doing? That's one of your big concerns for 2025, isn't it? We'd all like to have a little bit bigger bank account this time next year than we have starting out 2025. We'd all like to maybe get a raise or get that promotion or get that next big job. Maybe some of you are looking at getting a house for the first time. Maybe you're past that. Maybe you're getting out of the starter house and getting into the nicer neighborhood or getting to a subdivision or some place that's nice enough to be bothered with an HOA. But there's a lot of other forces out there that are going to have wild effects on you that are way out of your control. And to help us make sense of that, Greg McBride's coming on. He's a chief financial analyst with Bankrate. And one of the big metrics people are watching, Greg, is the interest rates. Like the Federal Reserve has been cutting rates. Are they going to continue in the future? What does that mean for the people listening? I know this is a big topic, but your prospects for 2025, Greg? Oh, I got to hit this button.
To cut rates, but only expect about 3 cuts this year. I think the reality check is that interest rates are probably going to be higher for a longer period of time than what we were hoping and what we've been used to. Interest rates we're not going back to a low rate environment. We're just going from a high rate environment to not as high. So, if you have debt, yes, rates are going to come down a little bit, but you can't sit back and wait for those lower rates to solve your problems because they're not going to fall far enough or fast enough. You have to continue to do the heavy lifting, be aggressive about debt repayment and strategizing about how you can get that paid off as soon as possible.
Well, are you concerned that that's going to have a upward pressure on inflation?
Inflation is really the thing that's keeping the Fed and will keep the Fed from cutting interest rates at a faster pace. The progress to get inflation to 2% was really in a holding pattern for 2024. And in the last several months of 2024, the progress really stalled out altogether. We need to see a resumption of progress, of inflation pressures moderating. And there's just a lot of uncertainty about that right now. And so, I think that from the Federal Reserve's perspective, until they see consistent evidence that inflation pressures are moderating, they're going to be reluctant to cut interest rates, or they're just going to be very measured in doing so.
Well, are we going to get much help on inflation if Congress doesn't get anywhere close to balancing the budget? If they keep running a huge debt, it doesn't really matter what the Fed does.
Well, they've been running that huge debt for over 50 years. In the last 50 years, I think there's been 2 years where they didn't add to the debt. So if we're sitting back pinning our hopes on that, we're in trouble.
Well, they could get a lot closer than they are now.
What's that?
They could get a lot closer than they are now.
Oh, you won't get any argument from me on that. But I'm just saying that the Congress running a deficit that's about as American as baseball and apple pie at this point. That's become a yearly tradition. Is how big is that deficit going to be? So yeah, they could do a better job, but how long have we been saying that? A long, long time.
Well, I cringe when I hear politicians say we're going to enact some policies that'll bring down the price of groceries. Now, grocery prices aren't coming down. They may go up at a slower pace in the future, and that's kind of the best you can hope for. But you're really kidding yourself if you're expecting any of these prices to go down significantly.
Yeah, but what do you expect from politicians? That is the reality of what you said, that when we talk about inflation pressures moderating, we're not talking about prices falling. We're not going back to 2019 or 2020 prices. When we talk about inflation moderating, we're talking about it just not going up as fast.
Right.
And that's little consolation, if you're living paycheck to paycheck and you're looking at, a rent payment that's 40 or 50% higher than it was 4 or 5 years ago. When you're looking at a grocery bill that's, double what it had been a few years ago, to say that, well, prices aren't going up as fast as they were, that just rings, really, really hollow. And, that's the reality that, millions of Americans are dealing with. So, inflation is, I think that's the one thing that is going to keep the Federal Reserve from being able to cut interest rates more aggressively, is just the fact that those inflation pressures continue to be stubborn, and I expect that to persist in 2025.
Well, it also feels like the markets have been pricing in some of this optimism for 2025. And if you ask Jeff Bezos or, especially Elon, they talk about how these proposed big government cuts will make things more efficient. And there's a lot of reason for upside potential if we can get these cuts done. If we don't get any massive changes to the way government's structured in D.C., do we risk sort of economic whiplash?
I don't know the answer to that. I think what I guess I would say is that the economy is in a position of strength right now. There's a lot of positives. I don't know that the economic expansion continuing and economic growth continuing is contingent on Congress taking some action. I think there's a lot of momentum for the economy, and I would kind of worry that. I kind of worry that they would do something rather than they don't do something, simply because I think the economy's coming from a position of strength, and we want to keep that going. We don't want something that could derail it, or something that could push inflation back up, after all this effort to get it back down. So the economy itself is in a position of strength. Unemployment is low, and we need to keep that going. We need to. We've been in a position where earnings are growing faster than inflation. It's been that way for about a year and a half. We need to keep that going so the household buying power can catch up. And so I'm not, I'd be more worried about Congress doing something to upset that apple cart as opposed to, hoping that they do something to keep it going, because I think the economy itself has a lot of momentum.
All right, good stuff. Greg McBride, Bankrate. How do they find your work outside of WBAP?
Bankrate.com. You can also follow me on X at BankrateGreg.
There you go. And good luck with your financial New Year's resolutions. I hope we all get really rich in 2025. Coming up next, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is going to be in town on Monday to talk about Republicans in Austin who are cutting deals with Democrats. He's going to kind of expose some of these rhinos. So I think you'd be interested in hearing about that. I'll tell you about the two events coming up on Monday next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. You know, when we talk about you need to be involved, you need to be politically involved, you need to, make action happen, change what's going on around you, be the change that you seek in the world. That next level of involvement, besides just voting every 4 years or voting every 2 years or maybe going to some meetings here and there, being a part of some Facebook groups, this is sort of that second level involvement that we try and encourage around here. Again, everyone can't do it. Some of us have jobs where we have to work 80 hours a week. But for those of you that have the free time, that have the interest, that feel compelled to do so, this is this is the tiny little effective stuff that only really a small percentage of the population participates in. So if you go to this level of political participation, you actually can affect a lot more change than you think, than the average person thinks. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is going to be in town on Monday, and he is going to be naming names and exposing Republicans who are cutting deals with Democrats in Austin. You know, how do we end up with a Speaker of the House like Dade Phelan? How do we end up cutting deals where Democrats can be the chairs of these very important committees when they have no political power to force the issue? It's just being handed to them. Who's cutting deals with all these Democrats? And the problem with this is once you get that rhino past the primary, they're a shoo-in. If you live in a red enough district, the real fight is the primary. So what do you do about that? Well, you have to fight them at the primary level. So now you have to talk other Republicans into turning their support for an incumbent. And that's really difficult to do. So he is making an effort by doing 4 stops next week. He's doing sort of a mini world tour. And when I say world tour, I mean just in Texas, but this is the whole world. I mean, sorry if you're a transplant here, but the truth is this is the only important part of the entire planet. So Monday, he's going to be with the Tarrant County Republican Party in Fort Worth. The event starts at noon, and he's going to be there with a handful of representatives. Not only is he naming names, he's also going to say, see this? This is Charlie Guerin. This is who we need to support in the primary to get rid of this rhino who votes against your interest, even though they're wearing the team red jersey. Here's John McQueenie. Here's Giovanna Capriglione, if I said that correctly. And so you get to meet these people on the ground. And that's the powerful part about local government. You know, that's the beauty of federalism. The more local all these powers are controlled, the more likely you are to be able to come up, meet these guys, shake their hand, have a little bit of eye contact. You think it's easier to meet up with a state representative, Charlie Guerin? He's just a candidate. You think it'd be easier to meet up with him or someone that's already in the House of Representatives in D.C.? I mean, can you even get a plane ticket there? Can you even afford that? I mean, is that something that's accessible to you? Well, for a lot of people, that's no. So that's happening. The Tarrant County Republican Party is having what is at this address? They gave me an address. I imagine it's probably like a hotel or something. Let me type this in. Because then tomorrow night, he is going to be doing another event at 6 o'clock at the Holiday Inn in Tyler, which is my hometown. It's one of the avatars under the Bug Tussle banner. So he's going to be there. So if you're out in East Texas, it's a free event. You don't have to get on a list or anything. You don't have to know anybody. You know me. That's all you got to know to be there. But look it up. It's online. This address they give you, it's not even like an event. It's not like Dickies Arena. It just looks like an office suite in an office park. So I guess someone is leaning their conference room or their event space for this. But look, if you want details, send me an email, james@wbap.com. We're going to have the Attorney General on, and he's going to name names on WBAP on the James Show on Monday. But the event that you can go, you can meet him and you can meet these other candidates, that's happening before the James Show. It starts at noon on Monday. So this is really my last chance to tell you. By the time he gets on the show on Monday, this event will already be done. So unless you're going to go to the one in Tyler on Monday night at 6 p.m., Holiday Inn, this is your chance. He's doing 2 more events, but they look like they're going to be in the Houston area, one in Leander, one in the Woodlands. So that's January 7th. But I like this action here. I like seeing I don't want to call it like intra-party squabbling, but it's almost like a purity test. And people can say purity test like it's a bad thing. Well, if you're sending people to Austin who aren't standing up for your principles, then they're basically defrauding the voters of Texas. And there's no charge. You can't throw them in jail for defrauding voters. The voters just have to, if they don't know, then it's pretty easy to get duped by people like this. You've probably been duped. You probably voted for someone who went to whatever office and didn't exactly hold up the principles you expected. And I know what that feeling's like. You feel like you got used. Well, instead of trying to come up with a charge for it or put handcuffs on them or put them in jail, what we're supposed to do as voters is find their political opponent and primary these bastards into the ground. So I thought that was pretty cool. He's going to be in town doing that. And for a lot of people, it's a chance to meet the Texas Attorney General, shake his hand. I've been at a few events where he's at. The coolest thing that he does, if you get to go to one of these events, and he'll probably do this, is he'll go out and he'll speak. I've probably seen him do this like 3 or 4 times. And then he will just open the room for questions. And you'll have people who are just barking questions at him. We'll take them one at a time. There's no filter. He doesn't care if you're recording him. Doesn't care if there's a video being taken of it. He doesn't care who you are or what outlet you're from. You could be from the Dallas Morning News. You could be from MSNBC. You could be from IHateKenPaxton.com. He'll try and answer your question. And it's really cool to see a guy in front of a crowd, and there's people who are literally trying to stump him. There are people who politically hate him, and they try and make him look like a fool in front of this public event. And it never works. It's really amazing because you just saw a presidential campaign where neither of the two candidates on Team Blue ever did what you will see Ken Paxton probably do at noon on Monday. One of the times I saw him do it is when they had not the first debate where Joe Biden kind of Roomba'd out on us, but the one debate that he had with Kamala. There was an event there, and there were some guys hostile trying to stump Ken Paxton on all these questions, and he was pretty cool as a cucumber. You could tell this must happen a lot where he goes. But you never saw Kamala Harris do that. You never saw Joe Biden do that. They were protected. They never went out to that press conference and just started asking random people random questions and letting them go on for a long time. Some people ask like 90-second questions where they go through this whole tirade, and he has to like counter this wall of text. It's amazing how you can see him do this with your own eyes in a small room. You could even be one of the people asking questions. And you still have some people wondering why Team Blue lost in the election. It's like there wasn't even the most basic transparency answering of questions. That's something you need to keep in mind if you're lucky enough to go to one of these events. I understand most people can't go. That's where we're going to have him on the show to kind of help him get that same message out that he's doing the tour for. So cool stuff. Coming up next, I got kind of excited when I saw a headline about there's a class action lawsuit of January 6 prisoners. About 350 or so have come together and filed a lawsuit against the Department of Justice for $50 billion. Do they deserve a payout? What do they deserve? I think maybe some monetary compensation would be fine. I don't know if that's going to be like a punitive. It's not going to be like punishment for the people who did it. I think maybe they need a little bit of money. They need a public apology, and they need for everyone who participated in the process of jailing them unconstitutionally. All those people need to be fired, and that's where the money needs to come from. It doesn't need to come from the taxpayers. It needs to come from the people who did this to them. That's what I think. But boy, that's a strong wish list for 2025. We'll talk to the outlet that broke the story first. Chris Putnam, CEO of the Dallas Express, is joining us in about 6 minutes on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Still looking for a Fort Worth location. I'm not going to beg, but people are bothering me to have another meetup, but they want it to be in Fort Worth, and I'm not going to have it at just some random place. If we don't have one bar or event space in all of Fort Worth that is a James Show listener, then we don't get to have one in Fort Worth. So if you know someone that is a WBAP sympathetic, or more specifically a James Show listener that has a bar or works at a bar or manages a bar or someplace we could meet up, let me know, James at WBAP.com. Now, I think you might like this next story. There is a class action lawsuit filed on behalf of at least 350 January 6 political prisoners, and they're suing the DOJ. Ooh, I like the sound of that. Chris Putnam, I saw y'all had a great write-up on your website. Is this really happening? Could this actually be a thing, or is this going to get thrown out in summary judgment, or what?
You know, I obviously can't answer that question for you, James, but they definitely filed a lawsuit. It was filed by a guy named Jake Lane. He was the lead plaintiff in the class action lawsuit. He's been in jail for basically this entire time, waiting trial on charges. And there's a legal group behind it called Federal Watchdog, you know, that filed it. And, you know, effectively what they're saying is that their treatment has been consistent with basic constitutional protections. A lot have been put in solitary confinement, haven't been provided adequate legal counsel or public defense public defenders. And, they're just being treated differently than, people normally are in a normal criminal case.
Well, I like the idea of there being some sort of accountability to the people who did this to them. But if you have a lawsuit for $50 billion, is that going to be paid for by the taxpayers? Because this really sounds like the people who did the wrong thing are going to go unpunished.
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple of questions, right? So I assume it would be paid by the taxpayers, and that creates a different problem for us, of course, right? I do believe, though, that that whether it's this or a number of other things, that we saw in the last 4 years, when it felt like we're basically living in a deep state psyop, there needs to be some form of accountability. What you'd like to see is our Republican-controlled Congress hold people accountable for that. COVID, the lies about COVID origins. Let's go all the way back to Russiagate. You could argue that was treasonous, and so I guess we'll see.
Well, I don't like the treason angle, because if you read history books, that's what gets trotted out basically every time a tyrant wants to throw his political opponents in jail. What I do like is, like, we make some constitutional based. I don't know. This would have to be criminal. Everyone who ordered churches to be closed, handcuffs. You get charged. There has to be a charge for that. You very clearly violated the Constitution, and even if I don't know what statute on the federal or state or local level is, clearly what they did was wrong. And whoever made all these unconstitutional orders, they need to be put in jail.
I can't argue that. Again, there needs to be some form of accountability. The question is whether it should come through, monetizing a lawsuit verdict, or, again, where are our legislators? We've had the House for a while. There's been hearings, of course. Now, of course, you have the Senate as well and the presidency, so you have a trifecta. And as you well know, there's only going to be about 18 to 24 months that are guaranteed to get that accountability. And there's a laundry list, of these, the politicization of our federal bureaucracy, our most trusted departments, right? FBI, DOJ, et cetera. And there needs to be some form of accountability for sure.
Well, every prosecutor that signed off on these arrest warrants for J6 here, every judge that approved it, if there's a violent crime associated with it, fine. But these people, like, you'll hear from him in the next segment, a local guy who's a January 6th political prisoner. He just walked through an open door with cops staring at him and not stopping him and just waving, "Hey, how you doing?" Having conversations with cops. He walked through, didn't steal nothing, didn't do anything, didn't break anything, didn't even clip his fingernails and leave the bits everywhere. Like, he did nothing, and he spent over a year in jail. Every prosecutor who got a warrant for that, every judge who signed off on it, they need to be charged with something. And if there is some financial compensation that is due to the January 6th political prisoners, it needs to come from them and not the taxpayers.
I that sounds fair to me. You know, also we still have a lot of questions that need to be answered, right? I mean, now we know definitively that there were, you know, whatever the count is, you agree with or don't agree with, double-digit numbers of undercover FBI agents there. The question is, were they stoking these folks or not? Was some of it actually contrived to create a riot type of scenario? And then look, what about this thing? Just, I mean, literally this week, 4 years later, they're finally showing us the video of the person planting pipe bombs, and we stopped talking about that altogether. You know, for 4 years, and now they're asking for the public's help. There's something terribly off about it.
Well, also, I think we have just more and more. We have 4 new years of evidence that the election really was stolen, and that makes them not just rioters. That makes them just protesters for the truth.
Well, you know, the left, of course, desperately tried to manufacture this quote unquote threat to democracy narrative. And as we saw in election results, most people didn't buy it. And particularly when you contrasted that with the actual violence that we saw, you know, with BLM rallies and riots, including in Dallas, Texas, where, as you know, multiple police officers were murdered in the street. And so it's, to me, it's just as a person in the media, it's just another blatant black mark on the woke lefty legacy media who recited that threat to democracy narrative. And I watch, you know, I like to watch a lot of the, you know, the more left-leaning broadcast channels during election night. And I mean, they're literally saying threat to democracy is the number one campaign issue. Well, it's nonsense. I mean, it's literally they're promoting political narrative, not actual news. We've seen that in the results now.
Well, Chris Putnam, DallasExpress.com has a couple other good stories. There were 2 lawmakers who missed more votes than Kay Granger last year. How come I haven't heard that before? That is bizarre.
I was shocked when I saw it. Congresswoman Granger missed 52% of the votes. As we know now, she was absent, you know, from July on until today, actually, when her predecessor was sworn in. So I don't know.
So there's a fella in here who has missed 88% of his votes in 2024. Some representative, Grijalva, never heard of him before, but he said he was diagnosed with cancer. He just got reelected and is staying in office for another 2 years. Wow.
Yeah, as you know, the power of incumbency is just absolutely tremendous. Again, it's just like the story that we had, you know, that you and I talked about last week with Congresswoman Granger. I mean, at some point we have to have a serious national conversation about the need for congressional term limits, because these people are staying in office when they can't serve their constituents. Their constituents aren't represented. And I mean, they're literally either dying in office or staying in office until they can no longer physically function.
Well, Chris Putnam, DallasExpress.com. What about this? I think the real conversation needs to be of how incredibly uninformed the average voter is.
Yeah. It's, in fairness to the average voter, look at what they've had to inform them, until this election cycle.
Solid point.
Yeah.
Chris Putnam, DallasExpress.com is his website. It's a great alternative news site. It's actually, I foresee in a couple years, you're just going to be lumped in with the mainstream ones too.
We have some exciting news on that front, actually, that I can't share just yet, but maybe next time we talk.
Okay. Well, I like the sound of that, Chris Putnam.
And hey, James,
yes.
I can help you with the Fort Worth thing. I'll talk to Garrett offline.
Oh, thank you. I'll just put you on hold, Garrett. Talk to him and figure that out. Are you going to be at the Ken Paxton event in Fort Worth on Monday?
I'm not scheduled to be yet, but I literally every day I have to choose and pick and choose, right? So I'll try to get there.
All right. I think I'm going to try and go too. For those of you just joining the show, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is going to be with the Tarrant County Republican Party on Monday, January 6th. There's a little speaking event he's going to have at noon. You can find that online or email me, james@wbap.com. Coming up next, you'll hear from a local January 6th political prisoner himself and his thoughts on the class action lawsuit on behalf of the J6 political prisoners. That's coming up. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. You and I agree. January 6 prisoners were not treated fairly, correctly. Even if it was the letter of the law that they were cracking down on, that's not what you saw for the entirety of 2020 with the Summer of Love. That's not what you see for most of the protests. That's not what you see for when they tear stuff up here in downtown Dallas or just starts blocking highways or whatever. Those people get to skate. So the question isn't were they done wrong. The question is, how do we make things right? There's a class action lawsuit. Seems like maybe a good start. I don't think that's the end of what needs to happen. Maybe just a good start. But I figured a good person to ask would be Larry Brock. He is a local guy here, a military vet who's a January 6th political prisoner. Spent how long were you in prison for? And welcome back to the show. Happy New Year. But how long were you in the clink for?
Oh, thank you. I was in the clink for 372 days, and then, with house arrest and halfway house, about 15 months total.
Good Lord. Okay, so what do you think about this class action lawsuit? I should tell people, I texted you if you're in this, and you said, well, which one? So, I just learned there's more than one.
There's actually two, and the one that you've been talking about is filed by Jake Lang. I am in actually the other one. Personal reasons for that is you have to be prepared worst case, and if it does get to a jury, Jake Lang's actions on January 6th were not what I want to be a part of. I want to be in the class action lawsuit for the people that were nonviolent towards law enforcement officers. So there are actually two. The second one is in the exploratory phase. It's relying on, I'm going to call it quietly building consensus on how we're going to do things. There has been one meeting. There's another one tomorrow at noon. So, yes, I intend to be a part of that class action lawsuit. In terms of, you ask a good question. $50 billion seems like a lot of money, and it is. But what we are looking for is life restitution. And the reason for that is our lives were literally destroyed. I had a great job as an airline captain taken from me. They've taken my licenses. I still have no guarantee that they're going to come back, although I believe President Trump will do that. So there needs to be some type of, I'm going to call it remuneration for that loss. And I think that should happen. Do I want that to come from the American People's Treasury? No, but I don't know where else it comes from. And I would really, let's just seize the assets of the Democratic Party would be perfect for me, and then we'll draw from there. But I don't think that's legal according to the United States Constitution. So,
well, I feel like just ethically speaking, it should come from the people who wronged you. It should come from the prosecutors who signed those warrants. It should come from the judges who signed off on them. Not necessarily the cops on the ground that executed it and actually put the cuffs on you and put you in the car and took you in, but the people who made the decision to do this, the people who held you that long, those are the people that I think that's where the money should come from.
Well, and you brought up the fact that something should happen to them, and I agree with you. If we can civilly sue them, and all of that is being looked at, but again, a lot of these people have immunity. But yeah, we should absolutely be allowed to civilly sue them, to include the judges who basically just, trod all over the Constitution. But there are two criminal statutes that the leader of the Article 3 project says are applicable, and that's Title 18 United States Code 241 and 242, conspiracy against rights and depriving Americans of their rights under color of law. That one in particular has teeth, and I think, Attorney General Bondi needs to probably look at that. Honestly, sir, I don't know if I've said this on your show, but probably the best method of doing this is to appoint a special prosecutor to look into the abuses of J6, as well as another one to get to the truth of January 6th. I mean, even now, the FBI is still hiding the pipe bomber. We had a congressional subcommittee come out yesterday and say that they are deliberately obstructing Congress in getting to this. Who did this? Representative Loudermilk said that J6 may be the biggest government conspiracy ever. So there is a lot of things that we need to know about January the 6th. And if it was an entrapment operation, don't you feel the government should be obligated to at least restore some financial value to the people's lives that it's destroyed?
There you go. Larry Brock, how can people find more on you and support your cause?
Sir, X at Larry Brock Jr. is the best place to reach me. I'm always there, and I host a space every day there to talk politics from 11 to 12 local.
Thank you very much. He's a local January 6th political prisoner, Larry Brock, on the James Show again. Good stuff. All right, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we're going to talk to one of the great thought leaders. He started out as a comedian and a writer for like sitcoms and comedy shows. And when politics blew up after 9/11, he took that same skill set and has been applying it in a political sense, in a new sense. And we're going to run some of the headlines of the week through Evan Sayet's Unified Field Theory of Liberalism, coming up in about 6 minutes on The James Show. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, let's go. So in crazy times, one of my favorite people to talk to is Evan Sayet. And the reason why is he can explain what seems to be unexplainable. This is the man that is the brainchild behind the unified field theory of liberalism. And if you've always wondered why your crazy friend from college or your sister-in-law or that one Team Blue aunt that you have, why they think the way they do and how frustrating it is to see them come to such wrong conclusions from the same data set the rest of us have, this is the man who's identified it and nailed it better than any other. Evan Sayet, welcome back to the James Show.
Thanks, James.
So let's use the unified field theory of liberalism on the top stories of the week. Look, this one's an easy one. We'll start with an easy one. The reporting after the New Orleans terror attack was something that had a lot of people listening to WBAP pulling their hair out. You see the FBI lady come out and say, this is not a terror attack. He had an ISIS flag. He's of Middle Eastern descent. He was a recent convert. He had videos posted saying this is why he did it. How do they come across with such wrong conclusions when the data in front of them is so obvious, Evan?
Well, as you know, they reject the use of data. The answer is preordained, and the reason it's preordained is because it's ideological. It's not factually based. In the unified theory of liberalism, all ideologies, all cultures, all people, all behaviors the conclusion must be that they are equal. They are equally right, equally good, and equally valid. Therefore, no matter what the evidence actually shows, their conclusion is preordained. It's not Islam. It can't be Islam because then there's something wrong with Islam. So therefore, that's taken off the table even before the investigation begins. And then as they investigate and they find more and more and more evidence that it obviously is Islam, they simply do not apply it to their preordained conclusion.
Well, the follow-up with the media is they were insisting for the last 2-3 days here to make sure that the guy is a U.S. citizen and an Army veteran. It'll be in the headline. It'll be in the description. They don't say that he is a Muslim terrorist. They say he's a U.S. citizen and Army veteran commits terror attack in New Orleans. Explain that one, Evan.
Well, because one of the corollaries, in the book, The Kindergarten of Eden, I actually lay out the 4 laws and 3 corollaries of the unified field theory of liberalism. And one is that for every action on behalf of the evil, failed, and wrong, there's an equal and opposite reaction to accuse that which is good, right, to denigrate that which is good, right, and successful. Since Americans overwhelmingly tend not to be terrorists, and since Islamicists overwhelmingly tend to, at the very least, be supportive of Islamic fascism and Islamic terrorism, every effort to hide the fact that it was Islam that was the cause of this terror attack has to be met with an equal and opposite effort to elevate to the level of evil the same people that were the victims of the attack. In other words, just like on 9/11, if you remember, the reason they attacked us wasn't just because we were wrong. We were all little Eichmanns. They had to raise the level of the evil they ascribe to the innocent to exactly the level of evil that they're defending.
All right, well, let's talk about some other things that are going on in the headlines right now. I was just talking about a class action lawsuit by the January 6 political prisoners against the Department of Justice. Will we ever see our Team Blue neighbors and friends and relatives admit that the January 6 political prisoners were done wrong?
Oh, I highly doubt it. The good news is, and this is something I've thought about for a long time, that there are only going to be 2 possibilities for the future of America. Either we were going to have a civil war, or the same people on the who vote Democrat are going to come over to the Republican Party. It's going to swell into a uniparty and then divide in half and have those we now call rhinos. And the reason we call them rhinos is they are Republicans in name only. They're Democrats who have come to their senses and therefore vote against the far left. And I think that's what we're finally seeing. And I do think that those people, and we saw the trend. You saw all the red arrows that across the entire country. I think it was only Nebraska and Washington State that the president didn't extremely outperform previous efforts. And so we're seeing this move to the Republican Party. And at a certain point, the Republican Party is just going to have had enough. And I think we're there. I think the fever blister of wokeism, if it hasn't yet broken, it's right there. And so whether they're going to admit that they were overcharged, whether they're going to admit that they were mishandled and mischarged, irrelevant. I think that they're going to just say enough's enough. That was in the past. Let's move forward.
All right, Garrett, Evan gets 6 points. That's like a touchdown without an extra point for the phrase fever blister of wokeism. Yeah, I love that one.
Well, I'm going to go for the 2-point conversion. What do I need to get the extra 2 points?
We'll see if we have another cleverly worded insult before the end of the segment. We can get you another 2. Evan, what are you up to these days? Are you writing another book? Are you writing on a show? Are you doing speaking engagements? What is your employment these days?
Well, not all that long ago, I once again wrote the Al Smith dinner speech for President Trump. But I'm not just resting on those laurels. I am also writing another book. But the big news is I have decided finally to start a Substack. James, I've always preferred to write in long form because it allows me to go deeper into the philosophy. We have so many people who are so good at chronicling the wrongs of the left, that I felt I could do more good. Instead of pointing out the what's, I could explain the whys. And so you have my hour-long lecture to the Heritage Foundation. You have my 3 books, The Kindergarten of Eden, The Woke Supremacy, and whatever my last book was called, The Atheist Origin Myth. Now, things seem to have changed, and I think a more regular accounting of what's going on is something I can provide. So I'm starting a Substack.
Well, that is your jam, is the whys, not what happened or, the historical deep dives, but what the heck are these people thinking? Evan, just real quick, we only got like 30 seconds left. What's your thoughts on what the motive could be for the guy in Vegas?
Oh, gee whiz. You always have to keep insanity right up there at the very, very top. People do crazy things, and people have head injuries, and people have psychological damage. And I for what I know, and it's all I know, clearly it was targeting Elon Musk. That's why he chose that vehicle. Clearly it was targeting Donald Trump. That's why he chose that venue. But the first place your mind should go is people are sick. A lot of people are sick, and I think that's just the case in this case.
Yeah, I think you might be right. Evan Sayet, thank you very much. Where do they find you outside of WBAP?
You know what? Everybody go to Amazon.com and look for my Substack. It's just called Evan Sayet.
Sayet. Appreciate your brain on my show, Evan.
Of course, my pleasure.
Thank you. Coming up next, Matt, I saw another one of these articles, and do these abrase you like they bother me? The world's fastest bullet train can reach 280 miles. Am I the only one who thinks that these are the dumbest stories ever? I'll explain coming up in about 4 minutes. I'm not just hating on trains. It just, I don't know, it feels like a really elementary, low-level grooming. Anyway, stick around. I'll explain in about 4 minutes. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. If I sound like I'm higher than usual, like physically above you, it's because I'm on my soapbox right now. I got a soapbox out, and so I'm about 3 feet higher than I usually am. So if I sound different, that's the explanation for it. I don't know. Am I a psycho here? Am I just a nerd? These headlines just drive me so insane. It makes me so mad. Saw one. I have to share it with you. The world's fastest bullet train can reach 280 miles per hour. It breaks a new record. It's the greatest thing ever. Oh, that's so great. I hate these stories. I hate these stories with the hot, hot heat of 1,000 suns. Ironically, this comes from thesun.com, the U.S. edition of The Sun. But they're bragging about some Chinese prototype, the CR450. It's overgone thousands of tests, and it's incredible. It's the world's fastest bullet train. It has a restaurant-style dining car plus business class section. And so if you need to go somewhere from point A to point B in 281 miles per hour, I hope it's right on the tracks there at the beginning and the end. But they throw this out like it's amazing. Like this is the future. Like they're jealous. Like, oh, we should be doing this over here. How come China has all this high-speed rail and we don't? Because trains suck. That's why. Because we don't like trains. We don't want trains. If you look at the train ridership over the years, it's done nothing but decline. American people don't like trains. We don't want trains. We don't want public transportation. You know what we want? We want cars. That's what we want. And we don't want little bitty smart cars. We don't want to drive around in our own coffin or a matchbox. We want big cars. We want big old SUVs. Nelly's singing about a Lincoln Navigator, not a Volkswagen Jetta. We want the big old Ford F-250. Give me the 350 with the dually wheels in the back, platinum edition. That's what we want. We don't want to be in a choo-choo train. Oh, it's not even a freight train. It's a light train. And look, going 280 miles an hour to get from point A to point B would be an amazing deal for all of human history up until the car was universally adopted. It's not the 1800s anymore. I'm not Wyatt Earp going to Tombstone. I don't need to ride a train. This is a dead technology that they are keeping on life support as a thinly veiled excuse to control first billions of dollars of spending, but also the traveling habits, the transportation options, especially for the least among us. Imagine seeing a story about how we have a new horse-drawn carriage that reaches a new record top speed. Isn't this great? You can get from Dodge City to Deadwood in record time. Woo! No, that would be dumb. People would be like, we don't care about horse-drawn carriages. That was a technology from 100 years ago. Well, that's about where trains are. Unless you're hauling tens of thousands of tons of coal from a mine to a power plant, one product from one place, origin to another finished location. It's silly to keep this going. It's grooming is what it is. They're just putting in the public domain this constant affirming, oh, aren't trains awesome? Look at how awesome they're working in China. And aren't these great? When they say they're working in China, are they turning a profit? No, none of these trains are turning a profit. None of these trains would exist, whether it's in France or England, without massive public subsidies, because the people don't want them. These are losers. But this is grooming. They pepper you with nothing but positive stories about trains, about public transportation. Oh, they're building a new exchange downtown, or, oh, look, they've got a new cover for the bus stations, or look at the renovations they did to the one over here by the American Airlines Center. Oh, we have these new wraps that we're putting on the buses. One of them celebrating Erykah Badu, because we all know you love her and she's awesome. It's grooming. All this. All the positive stories that you see in the Dallas Morning News or wherever the heck else about trains, public transportation, how often awesome bike lanes are, street cars, walkable cities. But these are all inferior transportation options for pretty much every person on Earth compared to a car. Get it through your head, people. We're not going on trains again. Stop telling me how cool they are. Stop telling me how fast they are. Yeah, let's all get on a train. That'd be great. So you can get robbed, stabbed, raped, flashed, groped, maybe even shot. God forbid you defend yourself. Your life will still be ruined like Daniel Penny's is. And there's some obvious paradoxes that come with the rest of the narrative that happens in the news. I thought men were toxic and not to be trusted. I thought strange men were far more dangerous than even a bear. Then why would you want your mothers, your sisters, your wives, your daughters forced to be in this inescapable box with strange men instead of in a car? Aren't they safer in a car? Wouldn't you rather your daughter have to go to work every day, especially in a dangerous big city, in a car instead of on the train? If you don't agree with that, you're a bad parent. But think about this from the point of view, hey, feminists, where are you at on this one? If you're a woman in a car as opposed to a public train, feminists, what do you think the difference is in the likelihood that you could be groped or grabbed or accosted or flashed or catcalled or even worse, robbed, stabbed, raped, flashed, shot? Yeah, far safer. And if guys are supposed to be so evil, why are you trying to force everyone into trains with them? And you shouldn't trust these people on anything anymore. Anytime you see something from a distrusted platform, just assume the opposite's true. Because people that are telling you that you're going to love a bullet train are the same people that told you the Inflation Reduction Act would reduce inflation. They told you repealing net neutrality would mean your internet's going to get more expensive and slower, and you'll have to pay to get on Facebook. Did that ever happen? You have to pay to get on Facebook? Oh, no, they were wrong about that. They were wrong about the Obama stimulus package. Remember, if we don't pass this, unemployment's going to go above 8%. Well, we passed it, and it went above 10%. Thank you very much. These are the same people who are wrong about the Olympic drag show mocking the Last Supper. This is Dionysus, you idiots. Oh, really? Is this the same people telling you bullet trains are awesome? I mean, aren't these the same people who fell for the mother of all dunce hoaxes, Jussie Smollett? You guys couldn't tell that Jussie Smollett was lying, but you know the civil engineering and the human behavior and the economics of bullet trains. Oh, really? I'm supposed to trust you on that? Yeah, just, okay, here's billions of dollars. Go spend it on public transportation. They're going to keep trying to do this stupid train between Dallas and Houston, and I want you to fight it tooth and nail every step of the way. It's an entire waste of money. And you got to realize most of the nation, most of the people around here, they just take the grooming. They can't lap it up hard enough. Remember, these were the same people that were telling you to wear a mask. How many people out there? I saw a dude wearing a mask yesterday. I want to tap him on the shoulder and be like, you don't have to do that, dude. Go just get on your phone. Google the Cochrane study. You don't have to do that. But these are the same people who told you we have to close church. Granny must die scared and cold and alone without her family around him. These are the same people telling you you're going to love a bullet train. These were the same people telling you Biden was mentally sharp enough for a second term. They don't know. And even if they do know, they'll lie if it fits the narrative. These are the same people who've gotten every single global warming prediction wrong in your lifetime. These are the people who were telling you 10, 20 years ago, solar panels and electric vehicles, that's going to be the future. Here we are. Neither one would survive without subsidies. All of these trains are a terrible idea. Stop trying to make them cool. Trains will never be cool again. Coming up next, we're going to play Name That Artist for 2 tickets to Lost 80s Live. They're coming to the Pavilion at Toyota Music Factory August 17th. Who's that? Flock Seagulls, Big Country, General Public, whole lot more. Stick around. Name That Artist coming up next. If you want to play, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, happy Friday. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. All right, we're going to play Name That Artist in just a second. You need to hear the montage first, all right? Because this is a two-parter. If you know all these songs, if you know the artists to all 10 of these songs, and you're interested and able to go to the Lost 80s Live on August 17th. I don't know if you have your schedule laid out for August yet. I don't know. Some people are responsible and organized. I don't know what that's like. But if you want to go see, it's a bunch of good groups. Flock of Seagulls, Big Country, General Public, a few more. You can check out the lineup at livenation.com. But if you want to go to that and you know these 10 songs, then you need to call in. All right, here's the montage. So there you go. That's the montage. If you're like, oh my goodness, I know all those songs, go ahead and call in now. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. And then you're going to get out either a piece of paper or a notepad file on your phone. So when we play the montage again, you can type them all in, and then when I go to you, you can just rattle them off really quick. You just go really quick. Ding, 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 ding. And it doesn't take forever, and you don't have to muddle through it. It just sounds a lot better. So go ahead and call in right now if you want those tickets. 800-288-9227. I think it's worth going just for Flock of Seagulls. How cool would that be? I mean, I'm surprised those guys are still doing it. Yeah, and it's not like they're too old. It's like at this point, do you need the money? Think of all the royalties they get off of that because it was on like Grand Theft Auto and whatnot. Anyway, 800-288-9227 if you want to play. My next story I absolutely love. A new study comes out that says eating plant-based meat is linked to depression. Oh, you don't say. You know, I've always thought bacon was great. I just found out today that it could cure your depression. And look, you and I are already making the link up here. The idea that being vegetarian is more healthy than eating an omnivorous diet is usually based on the fact that if you are going to be a non-vegetarian and you're going to be pounding ultra-processed foods and McDonald's and not exercise, maybe vegetarian would be more healthy than the gluttonous, terrible diet that some people have. But for the most part, if you're going to watch what you eat and be a little bit disciplined about it, of course, including meat in your diet is a healthier option than plant only. That's what we're made for. 2 million years of human evolution included meat in the diet. So just taking out one of those crucial legs of the stool and the protein dense one, it doesn't make you more healthy. Yeah, you're losing a lot of weight. It's because you're dying. It's because you're not eating meat. It's because you're not feeding your body enough, and it's just wasting away. Your body's eating itself. Your body, if you don't feed your body meat, then it will cannibalize the meat already in there until you're just some depressed little 160-pound weakling, I suppose. But of course, eating meat substitute is linked to higher depression. The numbers are kind of shocking. 42%. You're 42% more likely to be depressed if you're running around eating Impossible burgers or bean patties or meat substitutes. It's a miserable life. It warmed my heart so much to see a survey I think I just saw this last week, where it was more than 70% of men said, yeah, you can take off the last 2 years of my life. Even if eating meat means I'm going to die 2 years sooner, I'd rather die 2 years sooner. And when you go read through the article, it makes sense. Would you rather make it to age 91 or age 93? If you go to age 93, no meat. If you go to age 91, it includes you eating whatever you want, whenever you want, including steaks, including hamburgers, including bacon. Heck yeah. Love that. Lisa in Fort Worth, you ready to play Name That Artist?
Yes.
I just want to see if you're paying attention. All right, I'm going to put you back on hold. All you other people on hold, we're going to do the montage again of songs. Or no, we got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to do the montage of songs. You're going to write them all down, and then we're going to go through it. I'm going to start with Lisa, but if she gets one wrong, other people on hold, I'm going to go to you next, so be ready. If you want to get in, you still got a second to call in. There's, 2 lines open? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. We're playing Name That Artist next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, we're playing Name That Artist. I got to give away 2 tickets to the Lost 80s Live. It's coming to the Pavilion at Toyota Music Factory August 17th. Where is that? It's just up the road in Irving off 35 over here, and you veer off on, 183, and it's in Irving. Flock of Seagulls, Big Country, General Public, whole lineup you can find at livenation.com. Here's the montage. Go. That's all our montage for Name That Artist. That's my Michael McDonald. Shut up. I know it's not that good. Lisa in Fort Worth. You ready to list them out?
Yes.
All right. Well, let's hear it for Name That Artist. Let's go.
Rick Springfield.
Correct.
Asia.
Yep.
Foreigner. Elton John. America. Prince. David Bowie. Men at Work.
Wait. That was not David Bowie.
Oh, Orchestra Maneuvers in the Dark.
Ooh, another good guess. Hang on.
Okay.
You did really good. I'm going to give someone a chance to steal here. Dory. Like Finding Dory?
You got it.
All right, Dory in Dallas. You're next up on Name That Artist. You got a better list than Lisa in Fort Worth. Let's hear it.
I'm ready. Rick Springfield, Asia, Foreigner, Elton John, America, Prince, Simple Minds, Men at Work, Goo Goo Dolls, and the Doobie Brothers, Michael McDonald.
All right, we have a steal. That was cold. That was cold, Dory. You absolutely just ruined Lisa in Fort Worth's Friday, bud. But you earned the tickets, and congratulations to you.
Well, thank you very much. I cheated. I'm an old '80s DJ.
Oh, well, that's not cheating. You're just a ninja at this game. Then I bet. Are you interested in seeing Flock of Seagulls, Big Country, General Public, that whole crew?
Absolutely. I think it'd be great.
Man, me too. I think that would be cool. Because there's like that little middle ground where like if a band's cool and it's been like 5 or 10 years, they're not cool anymore. And then if you wait like another 10 years, they're cool again. These guys definitely cool again. Are you going to do your hair like Flock of Seagulls? Are you going to be hairspraying it straight up in a couple like rooster tails or something?
Man, if I had enough left, I would. The real interesting question is, will he be able to do it?
Did he go bald?
Well, I think he's a little thinner.
Yeah, hey, put on a wig. We can all play pretend like we're still young and beautiful and relevant and awesome. So just sit on hold here, Dory. Lisa, thank you very much. I'm sorry it didn't work out for you. You were awesome. You just had one flaw, and that's all it takes. This is a brutal game, this Name That Artist. My last story I wanted to leave you with, I just saw this in Russia, and this isn't a big deal. I just thought it was funny. There's some police that have arrested and fined 7 people in Moscow for looking too gay. Do not complain about me saying that. That's what the headline says. Go to the Daily Mail and look it up. So what happens is there's been like a crackdown in Russia. They're not as rainbow friendly as we have been over here. And so they went into a club and they actually detained 8 people for looking too gay. And the description's hilarious. There was one guy who was wearing black tape over his nipples, like little pasties, and a woman-style corset. Another one had bright orange hair, red tattoos on his face, wore pink socks, as well as an unbuttoned kimono. Ew. And then the 8 guys were detained. Only 7 got charges. The 8th guy, this is the best part. He's a male bartender, managed to avoid being fined because he said, I'm not gay. I'm not dressed as a gay. I'm dressed as a goth. See, and we're just real effeminate. So that's why I have dyed hair and a black t-shirt and I'm wearing fishnets or whatever. I'm not gay. I'm actually goth. Oh, my mistake. Uncuff him. Go on about your day, sir. Russia's a weird place, man. I don't think I want to go. All right, that's going to do it for the James Show today. Thank you very much for hanging out. If you need more James Show action over the weekend, check out the podcast wherever you're already listening to podcasts, WBAP.com and the WBAP app. Stick around. Coming up next, Mark Levin. And before that, you're going to hear from Cowboy legend Troy Aikman with the Cowboys Report. I'm James Parker. This has been the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.